Hello, Heidi here. I'm helping out with Amy's Client Stories, and I have a great adoption case for you today. One of the highlights of the story is the client's aunt was a famous actress. She was a famous actress on a popular 90s show. It was like a kid show. I think it was on Nickelodeon. It would be like Barbara Billingsley is on Leave It to Beaver. Fun fact, I'm related to Barbara Billingsley, way far. But so that was really cool. So I start working her case. She was adopted, like I said, and she had amazing adopted parents who gave her a wonderful life. But she was always curious about her biological parents. Maggie, my client, is very creative, and she was always wondered where she got that from and what they look like and where they were at now. And she just been a long time looking for him, for them. So she took an Ancestry DNA test. She was surprised to find out when she got her results that she's 50% Jewish. And so she thought that was neat, but she couldn't figure out the connections on how to solve her own case. So she came to us. The paternal side of her matches were much better. She had a really high match, like around 1,600 centimorgans, but it was a common name with no tree. But I figure as I start building out this tree, I'll probably bump into her, which I did. When I bumped into her, I went over to Been Verified to look her up, and I saw that she lived in Los Angeles, California, and under jobs it said actress. And I was like, who is this lady? So I Googled her, and when I Googled her is when I found out that she was that famous actress. So I went to Maggie and I sent her Wikipedia, and Maggie just thought that was the coolest thing ever because Maggie grew up watching that show and always thought she just was very fond of her as an actress. So we couldn't find the famous aunt's phone number, and even the biological dad, we're going to call him Dean, we couldn't find a phone number for him either. I had an address, and when I looked it up in Google Maps, it looked like it was like a hospital. So wasn't sure how to get a hold of him, but she did have an uncle that I was able to find contact information for, which she did contact, and he was just turned out to be a really amazing guy. Maggie doesn't drive, and I believe she's in New York, and so it took some planning, but finally the uncle, who I'm calling Scott, picks her up and takes her to meet Dean, and Dean's in a nursing home. They meet with Dean, and they just have a really wonderful afternoon. Come to find out, Dean is also creative. He's a writer also. He had done some projects with the famous aunt, and he also talked very fondly about Maggie's biological mom, Andrea, and he was very much in love with Andrea, but they both had mental health issues, and because of that, they just weren't able to make it as a couple. So they thought placing Maggie up for adoption would be the best thing for her. So it's like I said, it's hard for Maggie to get over to Dean, the bio dad, but she promised when they left, I'll meet you one more time. I'll make sure to see you at least one more time. So about a year later, she realized, I hadn't heard from Scott or Dean in a while. I'm going to call Scott and see how Dean is doing. Dean's her bio dad. And Scott said, Maggie, he's not really doing well. As a matter of fact, he's in the hospital right now. He has dementia and he has an infection. And because of his infection, they're not letting people see him right now. And that just Maggie was crushed. And she's like, okay, well, let me know as soon as he's able to get visitors because I want to see him at least one more time. So I think it was a week later, Scott got a hold of Maggie, and Maggie was actually on vacation. She was out of the state. And he said, Scott said, Maggie, this is the time for you to come see Dean. He's in hospice and he doesn't have long. So Maggie says, as soon as I get home and I land, I'll get over there to see him. So she got home late that night, so she wasn't able to see him that day. The next day she went to work and went to call the hospital that Dean was at during her lunch break, and while she was calling, he passed away. So she didn't get a chance to see him one more time, which really upset her a lot. So I'm having a hard time with her mom's side because of the low matches, but I told her, I'll keep digging and I'll keep checking to see if you have any new matches come up. We just need a good match to solve it. I'm checking it in every few months in her matches, and finally I see that she's got one decent-ish match. I want to say it was like maybe like 180 centimorgan match. So as I said, Mom was Jewish, so I got Kim, my favorite Jewish genealogical expert, and Kim was able to find Andrea. And Andrea unfortunately had passed of cancer 7 years before that, but we put her in contact with her uncle and her nephew. And they went into a restaurant and they met, and they had, you know, it was really awesome for Maggie to hear about her mother. Her mother is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. And as soon as Kim, she found the mom, Andrea, in a yearbook photo, and she sent me that photo, and she looks just like Maggie. I mean, there is like no denying that that was her mom. So when she was meeting with her uncle was aware that she was placed for adoption, and they just reminisced about all the great stories. Andrea is also a very creative person, so that's where she was just meant to be very creative. To this day, Maggie keeps up a blog, and she's an amazing writer. So it was just a really fantastic ending of being able to meet her father, seeing a picture of her mom, knowing where she looks like. She said she looked nothing like her dad at all. She was surprised he didn't look anything like she thought. And unfortunately, both parents had passed, but still she said to me that she has a piece of herself that was missing filled. And she's very, very grateful for us. So I hope you enjoyed the story. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them. And if you haven't already hit subscribe, please do so. Catch you next time. Heidi.